For our mini project, Amy, Elizabeth, McLean, and Claudia looked at the state crime statistics, and we are cohort number 11. So, we began by defining an abstraction, which is a set of information properties relevant to a stakeholder about an entity. The data set that we looked at were crime reports with properties such as state, year, and population. State, we decided, was a string property that represents the name of the state the crime has taken place. For our abstraction, we also needed the year, which we decided was an int property that represented the year the crime occurred in. Lastly, we decided that the population was another int property that represented the population living in this state during the year that the report was created. So this is our data structure. The diagram on the right shows the structure of the abstracted data set. The entire data set is a list of dictionaries. So the limitations that we found with our data set was the location data, because it was only available at a state level and we cannot make claims about specific counties or cities. The year data was only available for years 1960 to 2012, and we cannot make claims about years outside of this range. The first question that we solved while looking at this data set was, what is the relationship between total population and total number of violent crimes in New York? The first answer that we found by using a scatter plot demonstrates the relationship between New York's total population and New York's total report of violent crimes. There appears to be a negative correlation as a population grows larger, specifically between 9 million and 9.5 million people. A no correlation when population is between 17 million to 18.5 million. The second question we solved was, we take a look at, is there a trend between the violent rape rate in Michigan and the time? The second answer that we received from looking at this data set is that the visualization shows the relationship between the rate of violent crime rape and time in Michigan. This scatter plot has a positive correlation showing that the violent rape rate has increased since 1960, when it was less than 20, to 2010, where it was a little under 50. The visualization also shows that the violent rape rate was at an all-time high at around 1990. The third question that we looked into from this visualization was the relationship between total population and the total number of robberies in Pennsylvania. The visualization shows the relationship between PA's total population and PA's total report of robberies. There is a potential correlation between a higher population and the total amount of robberies. The last question that we solved while looking at this visualization was, how do the number of rapes in New York compare to the number of rapes in Pennsylvania, California, and Washington? Is there any obvious difference between a difference in the number of attacks on the East Coast versus the West Coast? From this, we used a bar graph, and there's a significantly larger number of rapes in California than in New York, Pennsylvania, and Washington. And you can see that New York is the second largest number, with Washington and Pennsylvania with the least. California and New York have some of the largest populations in the U.S., which would explain the higher number of attacks. So the social impacts that we were able to learn about from our visualization are the stakeholders, which were the individuals planning to move to a different state, the state policymakers, and the state police departments, the real estate companies, and the renters. So one of the main potential conflicts that we saw while looking at this data set was that there would be a conflict between real estate companies and people who are moving. Renters may not want the crime data to be released because high crime rates lead to less people moving into an area, which makes this area less profitable. And here is our honor code statement. Thank you.